Hi, this is Jane at the Tahlequah Library again, and we're doing another Pinterest recipe. This time we're doing the spinach bacon quiche that Paula Dean does, and there'll be a link to it on Facebook so that you can try the recipe if you want. I'm just going to tell you what the ingredients are. We have an already done pie shell that comes in its own pan. You can get those tubes of refrigerated pie dough if you want, whichever one. I just like these because they're easier to use. I mean, you can make your own pie dough if you want. But so we use one of these. I've thought it out. It says use them frozen, but I always thaw them out before I use them. You're also going to need 2 cups packed spinach, fresh spinach. You could use frozen spinach if you wanted, but make sure that you thaw it out first and squeeze all the water out of it. So the spinach is packed down, and I'm actually going to cut it up and then saute it a little bit in a little bit of butter to get a lot of the water out of it. We also have a pound of bacon. This is it. I've already cooked the bacon up, and I'll be chopping that up. And then there's 1½ cups of shredded Swiss cheese. There's 1½ cups of heavy cream, salt and pepper to taste, and then 6 eggs. And that's all the ingredients that are in this recipe. So the first thing I'm going to do is just real quick. The reason I have this spinach in the bag is because I didn't want it to fall all over the place. I have to chop the spinach up a little bit, and it looks like a lot of spinach, but it cooks down to hardly anything. So don't think that it's a ton of spinach that you're never going to be able to fit in the pie shell. So you just take the spinach, kind of gather it up like this the best you can. You can do it in little bunches if you want. I've already pulled off all the stems. You don't have to do that. I just don't like the stems. So you just chop it up like this. Okay, so I've pretty much cooked down the spinach. That big pile of leaves is now this just little pile of cooked spinach. I'm trying to get most of the water out of it. And I mean, you don't want to burn it, but you do want to get most of the liquid out so that the liquid doesn't come out in your quiche, because if the liquid comes out in your quiche when it's cooking, it will make your quiche watery, which is not the best thing that you want with your quiche. So I cook the spinach first so that it can have a chance to cool off a little bit before I mix in the egg, because I don't want the hot spinach to scramble the eggs at all. So I did this first, and I'm going to set it aside, let it cool off a little bit, and I'm going to chop up the bacon, and then we'll just about be ready to go. Okay, so now I'm going to cook the bacon. Or cut the bacon. I've already cooked it. The bacon I usually cook in the oven because I just like the way the bacon comes out better, but you can chop it into little bits when it's raw and throw it into a pan and cook it in batches to get it done, whichever way you like. We usually do things like the bacon a couple days ahead of time and put it in the refrigerator so that when we actually have to cook the quiche, it doesn't take as long. But you just cut up the bacon into little chunks. I just do it all at one time, and until it's all done. Okay, so now I'm going to do the last part. I'm going to take the eggs, which I've already cracked and put into my immersion blender container, and I'm going to add 1½ cups of heavy cream. And I always use heavy cream when I'm cooking any kind of eggs that are going to be scrambled or custardy like this, because I just feel like it mixes better than milk, or, I mean, I guess you could use half and half. And then all I do is put the immersion blender in, and you could use any kind of blender you want, or if you're, really good at whisking for a while, then you can use just And then I just basically want it to get a little frothy. I always check to make sure that there's no yolk left. There's a little bit down there, so I'm going to do a little bit there. And that's basically it. And I'm going to let this just sit for a minute while I start putting all of the other stuff into the pie shell. Okay, so now I'm ready to actually assemble the quiche. Here's the pie crust. It's ready to go. I'm just going to take all the bacon and throw it in the bottom. I know it's a lot of bacon. You don't have to use that much if you want, but that's what the recipe calls for. And we've made this recipe a lot, and it always comes out good, and we like the bacon. So any kind of meat you want to put in, make sure you cook it all the way first so you don't get all the watery stuff out. And then I'm going to put in the cheese. You can put in the cheese or the spinach, it doesn't really matter. what order, just as long as you get it all in. And just kind of try to get it spread out evenly. These these frozen pie crusts that have the crust already in them, they seem to not be able to, they don't have as much room, I guess you could say, to put all of the stuff in it. Oops, lost some there. So you may have a little bit of the egg run out of off of the top, but you don't have to pour it all in if you don't want to. If you use those tube pie crusts, those ones you can fit into a regular pie crown, but I find that sometimes they don't actually fit the pie pan. They're too small, and so they end up not coming all the way up. But most of the egg filling will fit in there just fine. And I'm almost done with the spinach. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of that piece that fell on the towel. Okay, so then what you're gonna do is, once you have it the way that you want it to be, and see there's hardly any spinach left after all that stuff that was there, you're gonna put it in the oven at 375 degrees, and you're gonna cook it for 35 to 45 minutes. I've never had it take less than 45 minutes, so I automatically just always put it on 45 minutes, but it says 35 to 45. I always cook it at 45. So once you have everything in there, you're gonna pour your egg and cream over, and I'm gonna go kind of slow because I want it to have a chance to actually get down in there. And hopefully it won't overflow too much, because then you leave a trail of driblets all over the way to the oven. But if I go slow enough, oops, I forgot to add. You can add a little bit of salt and pepper if you want. I forgot to put mine in. It's no big deal. You can sprinkle it on afterwards. I mean, the bacon and the cheese have a lot of salt. The butter that I actually cooked the spinach in was unsalted butter though. But afterwards you can sprinkle salt and pepper on your own serving if you want. And you can see how it's starting to come to the edge over here. I've got a teeny bit left. Sometimes you'll even see little bubbles come up. Okay, so that's it. I managed to get it all poured without it dripping, and now I just have to get it into the oven without it dripping all over. But like I said, cooks at 375. I always do them for 45 minutes. You'll know that it's done if you insert a thermometer. I use one of those instant thermometers into the center, and it should be about 160 degrees, and then you know you can take it out of the oven. You let it sit for about 10-15 minutes on a rack or something to cool off, and then you'll be ready to eat it, because you want it to set up a little bit once it comes out of the oven. So you let it come out of the oven, let it sit for 10-15 minutes, and then cut it, and you'll be ready to go. Okay, so this is actually a quiche that I made at home this morning because we're going to be eating it for dinner tonight. The one that I just made here is actually in the oven cooking, so this is kind of an example. This one's been sitting in the refrigerator all day. When they first come out, they're kind of puffed up and they'll go down a little bit. And in our refrigerator, we have lots of stuff, so we set something on top of our quiche, and it's got a round shape underneath where you can see where we set stuff. But this is what the quiche ends up looking like inside. The kind of brownish is the melted cheese. And so you can see all the different layers. It's not watery at all. You can eat it cold if you want, which I really don't like because I don't really like cold eggs unless they're hard boiled. Or you can eat it at room temperature. You can put it in the microwave, heat it up later. It makes good leftovers. In our house, we'll eat this for 2 days. We'll cut it in half, and my husband and my mom and I will each eat a piece for dinner tonight, and then probably in a couple days we'll have the rest of it. But if you just make sure that you cook the meat, cook all the vegetables ahead of time, and use heavy cream, it should come out just fine. I haven't ever had one that I messed up so bad that we felt like we needed to go out to eat instead of eating the quiche because it was that bad. So I've always had luck with this one, and it's a really good recipe. So thanks to Paula Dean. Bye.